I'm Steve from Jackson Interfaith Shelter, and today I have Ann Monroe, who is the CEO of A.R.E. here with me today. And A.R.E. is the drop-in center just up the road, a couple hundred yards from Jackson Interfaith Shelter. So we're extremely thankful for them and their partnership, and glad to have Ann with me here today.
Yeah,
So,
well,
hello.
thank you for having me.
So welcome. And so first, just can you say, what is A.R.E., what does it stand for, and how did you kind of find yourself in this line of work?
A.R.E. stands for Activities Recovery Empowerment, and we are the peer-run organization for mental health services in Jackson and Hillsdale counties. And we started out as the Jackson Drop-In Center back at the turn of the century. I think it was 2001 when it originated as just the Drop-In Center. And there was a Hillsdale Drop-In Center. They were two separate entities. And then in 2009, we joined together to form A.R.E. And it was just the two little drop-in centers. And we eventually added what's called adult peer support services. And then we added youth peer services. And then, parent support partners. And then youth peer services, but they're all peer services, and what that means is that we are the peer-run organization aspect is we're 100% individuals with mental health diagnoses. Mm-hmm. So that's the way the drop-in center started, and so we maintained that as we enlarged the organization.
Mm-hmm. So does Hillsdale still have its own drop-in center? Or is there
the Hillsdale has a drop-in center. Jackson has a drop-in center. We have peer support offices in Hillsdale. Okay. Those are housed in the drop-in center. In the Jackson drop-in center, that is a standalone building, and it shares the parking lot with our corporate offices, and that's where we have our peer support services housed.
So how long have you been at A.R.E. and how did you kind of find yourself working there?
I have been the Chief Executive Officer at A.R.E. since 2009, and I started working there. I worked at Lifeways many years ago, and they approached me to do something called person-centered planning facilitation, independent facilitation, which is helping people write their own treatment plans, essentially, in their own words, and there was a contract with the drop-in center to do that, and so I became affiliated with the drop-in center, and when the Jackson and Hillsdale drop-in centers came together, they asked for volunteers to help with the transition, and I was just volunteering. I was going to the meetings, and they were saying, we need somebody to write a policy, and I went, a policy, and they said, we'll need somebody else to write I'll write a policy, and then at some point they said, well, we need somebody to be the CEO, and
you're good at writing policies, so
they said, let's get Ann, she'll do it. Remember Mikey?
He'll do anything.
They'll do anything. So they asked me to be the CEO, and they said, maybe 10 hours a week, we'll pay you $200, you just say you're the CEO. And I said, it's probably not going to be the way it's going to go, and it didn't. So
here you are.
Here I am.
Years later.
Yeah.
So when you say peer support,
mm-hmm.
Can you just explain kind of what that means, and kind of for people that aren't familiar, and is it support just for mental health diagnosis? Is it support for substance use disorder? So what are these peers supporting with?
Our primary focus is mental health diagnoses, and those would be things like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, things like that. And peer support means that the people that are working in the field have to have a lived experience with a mental health diagnosis. So there's some similarities to case management for the peer support, in that peer supporters help people to access services in the community. They help people to write goals for themselves, create goals and do long-term and short-term planning for themselves, like a case manager would. But peer support specialists, their main qualification is that they have been there.
Yep.
Right. So our youth peer support specialists are young people who have themselves a mental health diagnosis, and they walk alongside young people that have mental health diagnoses. Our adult peer support specialists have had to navigate the mental health system, and they have mental health diagnoses, and they've had to take medication and so forth. And so they walk alongside people that are not maybe as far along in their recovery. And the same thing with our parent support partners. They are parents of kids with special needs who then walk alongside other parents of kids with special needs to help them to navigate the system. So even though most of our peer support specialists have degrees, or at least some degree of college, some advanced degrees, that's not what qualifies them as a peer support specialist. What qualifies them is that they've been there.
And so 100% of your staff have lived experience, no matter what position they're in, right?
Yes, yeah. Myself included. Our board of directors is required to have a lived experience with a mental health diagnosis. Now, there's some overlap. You were asking about substance use and so forth. You know, we've got numerous folks that have some overlap, either with substance use disorder or with a developmental disability, or some other kind of co-occurring thing. But the main thing is that everybody has to have a mental health diagnosis, has to have history with mental health.
So with being a drop-in center, what does that mean? If someone's never been to a drop-in center, what are they dropping in to do, or what takes place inside the walls of this building?
Right. Yeah. The drop-in center is an informal kind of friendly, almost home-like setting where people can come and go as they please. We're open 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Some holidays, usually Christmas, we're open. Thanksgiving, those kinds of things. And we've got games to play, snacks to munch on, coffee is always flowing, support and recovery groups. And again, it's staffed by people with lived experience. So you can come and you can be as proactive with your mental health recovery as you wish. You can come and go out back and smoke cigarettes and drink coffee if you want, or you can go to a support and recovery group. You can do arts and crafts. You can volunteer. There's lots of different options. And I kind of look at a drop-in center. So the drop-in centers are kind of the free arm of what we do. And I look at the drop-in center as the place where you can rest in your mental health recovery journey. Because if you are if you're getting lots of services, say from Lifeways or something, you're getting medications, you've got a case manager, you've got to go to different recovery groups, you have you have your life planned. Somebody has planned when you come and when you go. You may be staying at a care home or something like that. You're always working on your recovery, and you need a place to breathe. You need a place to be. It's like when you work out, when you lift the weights, you have to have some recovery time for all of that work to take hold. And that's kind of where I see the drop-in center.
And then, so do you call them members, people that come? Okay, so to become a member, what does that entail?
To be a member of the drop-in center, you have to be 18 years old, and you have to have some way to show that you have had services at some point. So if you've gone to, say, Lifeways, we can access this system because we're Lifeways providers. If you have, I just got a phone call from someone at Henry Ford Allegiance today asking if somebody that's just being is just leaving today, they need some kind of service, and they can't get services immediately. So they just called and asked, can she come to the drop-in center? Yeah, and that call from Henry Ford was all we need.
Okay.
Or if somebody's, you oftentimes have people that are coming from out of state or out of town, we'll just get permission to call a previous provider. You know, we might have to fax a release or something to just to make sure. And part of the reason is because we are so centrally located, a lot of neighbors that didn't actually have mental health diagnoses who were coming.
So welcoming that everybody was there.
We were really welcoming. Well, we didn't actually have access to our building for about a month or two, so we were meeting outside in the backyard. And
During COVID, you mean? Or?
It was before COVID.
Okay.
It was maybe a year or two before COVID.
Okay.
So we were grilling hot dogs every day in the backyard.
Probably pretty popular during that time.
We were very popular, and so we were a little bit too welcoming, and then we had to kind of rein it in, and we had to say, okay, wait, not everybody, you know, families with children, etc. You know, not
so
everyone.
You gotta focus your care a little bit.
Gotta focus on the people that really need it. So.
And you mentioned you had the pool table, so you had laundry, and from what I understand, people can rent a locker for $1 a month or something.
Yeah,
like that.
we got leases for $1 a month. You can rent a locker.
You're making a killing on
We
them.
are. There are a lot of sticky notes that say, you know, talk to James. You haven't paid your rent fee. But yeah, we've got lockers. We've got laundry service. We have. What else do we have going on there? We, you know, before COVID, we were going on week-long camping trips. We do lots of outings, and we were serving lunches before COVID. Now we have lots of canned goods and shelf-stable food that we give to folks to make at home, or we'll have snacks all through the day at the center too.
So, and then funding-wise, is it fully through Lifeways? Is that kind of
the majority of our funding is from Lifeways? Yeah. The drop-in center model is a model through Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. There are 52 drop-in centers in the state. So there's a specific way you have to do a drop-in center, starting with it being 100% consumer run and being off-site from, I say consumer, that's the old-fashioned word for peer or member, and it has to be off-site of the community mental health board. But I'd say maybe 90% of our funding is from Lifeways right now. But we do get some grant funding. We're doing some more fundraising. We're doing fundraising. We're doing some more fundraising. We've got a nifty little app where you can round your dollars up on your credit card to go toward A.R.E services, which is nice because our drop-in center is always in the red. We use our billing from our peer services to pay for our drop-in center because of course it's 100% free to anyone that shows up. So we've got to figure out, you know, the most creative ways to be able to pay for those services.
And if someone is street homeless, so you would have a lot of great facilities where they could come in, get peer support, have some activities, do their laundry, things like that. So do you see some folks that are...
We get a lot of folks that wander down the street from the shelter. You know, there's an awful lot of overlap. A lot of folks that come to you have mental health diagnoses and have had histories of trauma, just being homeless. So we do get a lot of turnover. I mean, we've got folks that have been coming to the drop-in centers for 25 years, but we also have people that are brand new that show up and get welcomed in and take naps on our couches and drink our coffee and make friends and then go on their merry way.
And that's how we first met. I came to your office, sat on your couch, and I drank coffee, and so
that's what we do. We sit around and drink coffee.
So one thing I appreciated when we first met, because I myself spent some time living over in Africa in the country of Zambia. So when we first connected, you mentioned that you lived in Senegal for a while. So what did you do over there? And does any of that? I always think a global perspective is helpful because even in this line of work, to have a context of how that is within America, but also outside of that. So how has that influenced some of your thinking?
Coincidentally, I worked at not a drop-in center, a inner city center. I was fresh out of college and I had a degree in marketing and French. Senegal is a French-speaking country, and I was attending a Southern Baptist church at the time, and they had a program called Journeyman. It was a 2-year program for college grads. Kind of like the folks that go there for 2 years. What is the
Peace Corps?
Yeah, Peace Corps. Right, it was like the Peace Corps. So since I was a French speaker and Senegal was a French speaking, that their official language is French, I went to Senegal and I worked in an inner city center.
Well, I actually didn't realize that's what you did there. So.
Is that? Well, I didn't think about it until maybe I'd been working with A.R.E. for a couple of years, and I went, wait, just 1 second. Yeah. I taught French literacy and English as a second language, and we had a library, and they had foosball tables and no pool tables, but a lot of similarities.
Have you kept up with your French?
Non, pas du tout.
Whatever you said sounded great to me.
No, I can say some phrases. I can say a few phrases in the native language there, but not very much anymore. I would probably talk like a 4-year-old at this point.
It's better than I can do.
It's been a while.
So kind of as we wrap up, any kind of last things that you think would be good for the community to know about the drop-in center, how to get involved, and then also I know you mentioned, you might be interested in some additional board members, so you're welcome to kind of mention that as well.
Yeah, I am. Well, a couple things come to mind. One is that we have a kind of a community room in the bottom half of our drop-in center that is we use it for we have an NA group that meets there.
What does NA stand for?
Narcotics Anonymous. So any groups that where there's some overlap with the population that we serve. We open that room up so that they can meet there. We haven't been doing that a lot during COVID. We had an LGBTQ group that met there. We've had Smiles on Wheels that have come. We've had vaccination clinics and so forth. But if there's anybody that has a need, we don't have a particular charge per se. I think NA passes the hat periodically, and every so often we get a few bucks. But to me, it's important to be able to open that up to the community. So that's one thing. That's something that we can give. But we are looking for board members. Our board has diminished significantly since COVID. We're looking for Hillsdale board members. Not that will. This podcast is probably not happening a lot.
We're international.
You're international.
Sure.
Right, like the world famous Cascades. Exactly. Yeah, the international. So we're looking for board members. Our board is diverse in terms of disability, but It's not diverse in terms of ethnicity. So it's really important to me to diversify more in our board. And one of the other issues with being a board member for A.R.E. is that you have to identify as someone with a mental health diagnosis. So you got to be gutsy,
right?
You know, you got to be confident and wear that stuff proudly, you know. But we are looking for board members. We're also looking for we're trying to get our eggs out of just the one funding basket, and looking for some help in a committee to try to figure out how we can do that a little bit better. So if anyone's interested in,
would they just be going to your website if there's interest, or how would they best reach out?
Yeah, you could go to our website, which is www.arepeerservices.org. You could call 517-788-9147 and
ask for Ann.
Ask for Ann. Say I want Ann, and there's only one of me.
All right, there's one and only. Yeah,
there's one in every group.
That's right. The one and only Ann Monroe.
That's right.
Well, that's great. So thanks for taking the time to come in. Thanks for being a fantastic partner. I know it's a huge blessing for us here on the shelter staff, having you guys right down the road. You're just a great partner, a great resource, and so many of the folks we serve, are able to connect with your peer supports in a different way. And then even once they get out of homelessness, for them to already have the connection with the drop-in center is just going to continue to help them to move forward. So we're thankful for what you do.
You're welcome. Well, and one of the other things is we do hire people who have been members in our center before as well. So, I think that's another important thing.
And people coming in know that
I see your volunteers, working here and everything. That's kind of similar to the way we run things.
Yep.
Do your listeners or your viewers know the kind of the improvements you've made at this place? Have you given them a tour yet or anything?
If they follow on Facebook, we do a lot of periodic updates on our website. We are actually doing we're doing our second annual block party on August 6th.
Okay.
So I'd love for Ted to join, but we're doing a ribbon cutting as well. So Chamber of Commerce is going to come, I'm guessing, bringing a chainsaw or an axe or some scissors or something to cut that thing. But we're excited because then we'll actually be able to give people tours if they haven't been able to step foot in since we made the renovation. And so excited about that.
Fun.
So thanks for asking.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.